The other problem people do in the real estate game is they only show the end result. They go buy a house to flip and they show us this beautiful $421,000 house, perfectly manicured, 2 palm trees and white picket fence. When we see that post, there's not gonna be that much engagement because I just see a cool looking house and then I scroll right by it. But what if when you first bought that house and it was a dump? Show us the process. Guess what happens when you list it and you post the final picture of the before and after. Here's the house you guys saw me buy for $246. Now it's $421,000. Here's what happened. You guys saw when this happened with the plumbing. You guys saw what happened with the gardening, blah, blah, blah. All of us are rooting for you.
I love debt because it helps make you rich. A lot of other components of wealth, but as far as the money part, debt's really helpful. No problem with that. I always intend on paying things back. But over time, as the projects grew larger, I learned about non-recourse debt. So I had a mix of that. Make sure that you are adding value to them. You kind of end up having to sell yourself. Here's why it would be good to teach me because I am ready to go and I've got everything squared away and I'm ready to learn and listen. But mentors are out there and a lot of people really do want to help. Some of them just want to do it because it's fun to help.
And we're back. Here we are, episode 10, a bonus episode. We often do bonus episodes. We set out to do a 9-part docuseries, but if we feel like we have enough extra content that is powerful enough that meets our standards, we'll create a bonus episode, and we just did right here for you. Episode 10, bonus episode 10. And don't look at it, oh, it's a bonus. It doesn't have the value of the other episodes. Some of you might find this to be the best episode in the entire series. So thanks for being here. Excited that we're still in the free viewing period. Excited that we have bonus content here for you. Again, thank you so much. So many of you raised your hand and said, yes, I'm in, and you made an investment in owning Hacking Real Estate. I'm really glad that you did. It means a lot to us. We sincerely appreciate you. But if you haven't done it yet, we're still in the free viewing period, so you can own Hacking Real Estate. You can get it at a steep discount, and you can also get the bonuses that we offer to go along with that. Let's dive into bonus episode 10. We got some great stuff coming up for you right now. Dan Fleischman, interesting character.
Very much so.
It's the creativity that's been coming out through these interviews has been kind of incredible. So here's a guy that was already successful, but decides he wants to move into real estate. Yeah. And he did it in a very unique way. So what was your interview like with him?
This is a fascinating man, and his brain just works differently, certainly than mine. I mean, he's the youngest guy to ever take a company public. Uh-huh. Right? So he's doing very well in life, and he's creating masterminds. And then he's got the wealth, but how do you protect it? Mm-hmm. And he realizes real estate is one of the best ways to protect your wealth. So he's going to get involved in real estate. Now, he has the means and the wherewithal and the knowledge of how to just put on events. Mm-hmm. So he just puts on an event and invites all these real estate experts to come and share their knowledge. And he sits back and kind of cherry picks and goes, okay, I like that. I'll invest over there. Fascinating guy. And how he talks about the brilliance of throwing an event and how easy and inexpensive it is to throw an event in your neighborhood to get people to come together.
Yeah, fascinating strategy.
It's brilliant.
Really just fascinating how to leverage other people's expertise and abilities to your benefit. Yeah, so enjoy this interview with Dan Fleischman.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for taking time to be with us. I know you're really busy. I read your book, so I've been looking forward to meeting you. I read the book on how to build your personal brand for under $1,000. You're the youngest guy. You're humble. You didn't say it. You're the youngest guy to take a company public.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. 23 years of age.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're into a lot of different things. But you're here with us this week. You're running a mastermind for real estate.
Yes.
Right? Why real estate?
So I have 3 different levels of masterminds, and real estate is something I was always interested in. And so I thought the best way to meet people in the real estate space is to throw my own event and they come to me. And so I was going and speaking at other people's real estate events, but I wasn't getting to like really understand how it would apply to me, since I'm going to be a novice or an amateur who just wants to invest, not necessarily I'm going to go flip a house or buy a building and remodel it. And so I decided to throw my own real estate mastermind, and I went and picked 8 characters. I nicknamed the Avengers. Those guys have all done thousands and thousands and thousands of deals in the real estate space. And then I went and got 100 members that want to get deeper in the real estate game, that have at least 5 deals that they've done under their belt. And now I have a real estate event. And now everybody comes to me and I can just invest and cherry pick because it's my event.
What have you learned?
I learned a lot. That's very complicated. There's a lot of permits. You don't need as much capital as you think because you can leverage. And there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, if you will. There's a lot of different ways to make deals happen, from RV parks to motels to commercial properties and fourplexes, remodeling and rehabbing and Section 8 and all these different things. There's just so many ways to make money in the real estate game. And so it's fascinating to hear the different experts that are in their category, because in their category, that's the best way. And the next person talks, that's the best way. The next person talks, that's the best way. So instead, I get to sit back and just kind of pick and choose who I'm going to invest in and let them be the expert.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for us interviewing everybody. And you're right, everybody you talk to, Jason was talking about single-family homes, the way to go, right? And when he's done, I'm going to jump into single-family homes, right? The next guys are all about
Airbnb,
multi-units.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're right, we got to do that. Have you? Are you leaning any one way?
No.
No.
I'm agnostic. I'm ready to go.
I like it.
Whoever's the expert, has a good deal in a good situation, that's what I want to back on.
I think it's brilliant that you wanted to learn about real estate, so you just had all the experts come to you. And that was one of the things I've heard consistently, is that it doesn't take as much capital as you think.
Sure.
That was really interesting to me. What have you learned on that? Because you've been around them a little bit more.
So what's interesting is you really only need between 10 and 30% down on these properties, depending on your credit, depending on if you have other people that are part of the financing with you, depending on the collateral, depending on the type of property. But then when you buy a property, let's say you buy a $1 million property, you really only need $200K to get into the deal. And you could syndicate some of it. So maybe I ask you, hey, why don't you throw in 50K? Our friend will throw in 25, they throw in 25, I'll throw in 50, and that guy will throw in 50. All of a sudden, boom, we got 200K. Maybe I can't do 200K by myself yet, and neither can you. Or maybe we can, but we want to do multiple deals. There's easier ways now to syndicate deals where now, boom, we got 200K together, went and bought this $1 million property. We spent $81,000 remodeling the place, and now the place is worth $1.4 million. Well, it's interesting there. In most investments that you put 200K into, or in this case 281, you're hoping to make 8%, 6%, 12%, etc. But what actually happened was you made $400,000. There's gonna be some fees and commissions, etc. But your 281 actually turned into $300,000 or $400,000 in profit. And so that becomes very compelling. Wait a minute. Most investments, I would put that type of capital, I'm gonna get a small return, etc. In this situation, what if I buy this property, I put the money in, and boom, I go from 1 million to 1.4. However, these other guys have different versions. They'll actually buy the property for $1 million, put their 200K in, spend the 81K to remodel, it goes up to 1.4, they don't sell it. They'll refinance it, take out $400,000, so they got their 281 back plus 100K extra, and they still own the property free and clear. And then they go do the next building, and the next building, and the next building. And they really only had that initial 281K between them and their friends to go do it again, and again, and again. And they have the safety of the real estate along the way. That part's fascinating.
Yeah, I've been really surprised at how fast some of these people went from just getting into it to having, hundreds of doors and properties and building bigger and bigger projects.
Once you have the first few, it's easier to get the next few. Once you have 4, then you can get 6, then 10, then 20, then 30. It sounds crazy when you start to think about it, except it's really just a bunch of paperwork, right? You're just buying assets on paper. There's plenty of these houses and condos and apartments they've never even seen. Literally never seen.
Right.
They see, oh, it's worth 400K. I can buy it for 335 because I know this guy, and I heard there's a divorce, and I can buy it for this cheap, and I just got to act quickly. So they put in 60K, and boom, they got a property. They've never even seen it. Then they rent it out for $1,800 a month, netting $400 a month. Doesn't sound like a lot, but then they refinance it 6 months later and do it again. Refinance the next one, do it again. And then that net 400, net 400, net 400, you get a couple hundred units, netting $400 each. you're rich. And you really just started with that initial capital. So it's really interesting what can be done quite quickly in the game. But I look at real estate for the long term.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, with all you've done and your fingers are in a lot of different areas, what was it about real estate that has you so interested?
So I'm an angel investor. I'm a gambler, right? I invest in startup companies. I've done it 36 times. Those are my shots at glory. If I'm right, I'm going to get a 5x, a 10x, a 30x, etc. Like, it's something big. But it's going to take 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending on the company. And there's no company I invest in today. Let's say that shirt, grayshirts.com. I could give them 100K. They're not selling in 2 months or 6 months. Probably not in 2 years. Most likely going to be 5 years or more. And so even though I give them the money, they go off, grayshirts.com becomes humongous. They crush it. They do 5 million, 12 million, 20 million revenue. They don't sell. So I'm not getting any distribution. I'm not getting royalty. My equity might even get diluted along the way. So I'm waiting for them to sell for 100 million one day, but that's not money along the way. With real estate, there are ways where you can make money along the way if you're renting it out. You can do Airbnbs, you can rent it out for events, you can flip it, you can whatever you want to do. There are ways to make money in the process. That part's interesting to me. So angel investing is still at my heart, at my core. But when those exits happen, that capital I can now redistribute into real estate, which is what I call my 40-40-20 rule. I do 40% boring investments, 40% medium risk, which is real estate, stock market, etc. 20%, it's my shot at glory. If I'm right, 5x, 10x, 20x, 30x. If I'm wrong, it's only 1x. That's what people don't realize. If I put in 50 grand, I can only lose 50 grand. But if I'm right, I get back 500K or $1 million. And so I don't have to be right that often when it's 10x, 20x, 30x is what I'm going for. But when those exits happen and that liquidity event happens, you have to then distribute that capital. And that's what I like real estate for.
Outstanding. So you said 40-40-20.
Yeah, 40% boring, 40% medium risk, 20% cross your fingers.
What do you consider boring?
Boring is something that's going to make me 4%, 7%, 5%, 6% a year. Then I'm just barely beating inflation, and I'm just barely beating what a traditional bank can give me. But it still has to happen, right? You still need that part of your life. You can't go all medium risk and high risk because that's cuckoo, and you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So you still need the boring stuff, and boring compounds, by the way. You can make 7% a year, and you just keep making it for the rest of your 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. If you take a calculator and just put in 7% and then compound it and compound it and compound it, you'll be shocked what happens after 30 years. I mean, like mind blowing.
Sure.
It's not 100K going to 300K. It's like 100K going to 3 million. It's crazy cuckoo stuff. So, and if you go from 7% to 8%, 8% to 9%, and you click that compound button, it's wild what can happen. And so you still need the boring stuff, but I'm more the guy that wants the medium risk, the stock market, the real estate. I want the action. And then I know in the 20%, I'm locking my money up for a long time. If I give you 25K or 50K, 100K or $1 million, doesn't matter what the number is, it's probably locked up for years and years and years. And so I often say this line that people don't really grasp. I don't invest in startup companies for money. I'm not going to make money for years and years and years, if ever. I do it because I know if I give them 200K, they're going to go hire 4 people, and then 8, and then 20, and then 200. If I do that times 36 companies, and I've helped create thousands and thousands of jobs, now it's meaningful, right? Along the way, some of them have exited or gone public. It's great. 32 out of 36 have not. So 4 have exited or gone public, 32 have not. They're all still alive, knock on wood somewhere. They're all still alive and kicking, but I don't make any money from them, right? Some of them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago I invested, haven't made a penny. And so I like all the different parts of the action, but I lean towards medium risk and high risk.
I've really found that pretty consistent talking to the entrepreneurs here, that giving back, doing meaningful things is a big part of who they are. Yes. So that's pretty cool.
Life is very short. And when you have an abundance mentality, things happen. When you give to people and you empower people and you create jobs and you do charity work and you help your friends and help your strangers, stuff happens.
Now, a big part of what you do is help people build a personal brand, right? Yeah. So one of the things I've been interested in talking to you about is that, because all these real estate people I've talked to, one of the other consistent things that comes through when I talk to them about how they find financing, how they find a good deal, how they do their job, and so much of it is relationship building, right? And contacts,
Yep.
right? It's picking up phones. It's personal brand seems a big part of it. So do you work with a lot of real estate people on how to build a brand?
Yeah, so you have a personal brand whether you like it or not. It's up to you to decide if you're going to tell your story or you're going to let people guess and have rumors and whisper. And so if you're a real estate agent, but you're also a single mom with 3 kids, and on Sundays you like to play basketball with the boys, and on Saturdays you like to bake cookies with the girls, and on Fridays you like to go to yoga. Well, if I'm following you and you're following her, boom. We now have an emotional attachment. You might like that she bakes cookies. I might like that she plays basketball. But we both know that she's a real estate agent. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of real estate agents in any city you go to. I don't care if she's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There's thousands of real estate agents. So how does she stand out? She posts about her basketball and her cookies, and she likes to play baseball sometimes. She likes poker on the weekends sometimes. And in between there, she shows us the fourplex. And in between there, on the next week, she shows us the Section 8 housing. And then she shows us the commercial property with the 8 tenants and why she's helping close that deal. We, her followers, are now compelled to think about her with what's called top-of-mind awareness. So we have an emotional attachment that created top-of-mind awareness. The emotional attachment for you was she bakes cookies. And you're like, oh, my mom, we used to bake cookies together. For me, it's the basketball. I got to see her crushing the boys on Sunday. Now, when somebody brings up to me, hey, I'm looking to buy a fourplex in Iowa, I think of her. There's thousands of agents out there. By the way, I didn't mention she doesn't even know me. I've been following her for 2 years, doesn't even know me. And then my friend says, hey, I want to buy a fourplex in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm like, oh, I know this great lady. She plays basketball every Sunday. She's got 3 kids and bakes cookies. You should talk to her. And I group message them on Instagram. And they talk. And he buys a fourplex for $800,000. And she makes $24,000 to $48,000 in commission. No idea who I am. That's a personal brand.
So if I'm going to get into real estate investing, I want to, whether it's buy single-family homes, flip them, sell them, buy fourplexes, whatever it is, I need contacts, right? I need to find people.
You need the bank officer, the loan officer, the mortgage broker, the notary, the people that are going to do the paint, the people that are going to do the wood and the pool and the cleaning and the gardening and the roof and everything. It's all about who you know, all of it. And so if you have a personal brand, the roofing guy wants to work with you. The pool guy wants to work with you. The lady that does landscaping, she wants to work with you. The interior decorator lady, she really wants to work with you because you've got 14,000 followers in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And what happens? If she works with you, she might get other clients. And people like you don't do real estate once, right? You don't do real estate once.
No, I'm in it to build it. Yeah.
And people are in it for 5 years and 10 years and 20 years and mostly for life. And so if you have a personal brand, she wants to work with you. He wants to work with you. She wants to work with you. He wants to work with you. Everybody wants to work with you because of your personal brand. And now, as you're posting content about interior decorating and about the roof and about the pool and about the landscaping and about the security system and every single part of a house, the other vendors want to work with you too. They're not going to overcharge you. You know why? You have a personal brand. They don't want to get you to be mad at them. The security guard does not want you to be mad at him because you are loud. You have 14,000 followers in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be looking for a new security guard company or security company. And they're like, wait a minute, I thought you liked that company. No, I don't like TriStar Security, whatever the name is, because they charge me too much. That doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. Because now your personal brand makes them want to, instead of charging you 10 grand, they charge you 8,200. Because what happens when they do that? Now you're like, I love TriStar. TriStar's fantastic. I use TriStar for every one of my homes all throughout Iowa. You guys should check him out. What happens next time? Instead of 8,200 to 7,600. He's going to do it at cost for you because you have a personal brand.
So how do I build it?
So building a personal brand is a couple things. One is social media is the easiest, and it's the scariest for people. Because if they hear me say, you got to post on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. They're like, oh my God, I don't want to post on 5, 6, 7 platforms. That sounds crazy. Let me make it simple. Make one piece of content. It's one photo, one video. You make one caption that goes underneath that photo or video, and then you do what's called repurposing. So let's say you and I take a photo right now, okay? I take the photo and I take a caption. I say, great Sunday afternoon, doing this interview, blah, 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 blah. And I tag you. I post it on Instagram at 9 a.m. At 9:01 a.m., I go to Facebook and I copied the exact same caption about great Sunday afternoon, interviewing, blah, 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 blah. And I paste it onto Facebook. It's the same exact photo. And 9:01, I push submit. And then I go to LinkedIn and I paste it. And it says, great interview on Sunday, blah, 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 blah. It's the same exact picture. And I do the same thing on Twitter at 9:04 a.m. And that's it. It sounds like, oh, I need to use a fancy platform. I need staff and editors and personal this and blah, blah, blah. You don't need any of that stuff. Everybody watching this right now has a cell phone. If you have a cell phone, you can have social media. Because guess what's also interesting? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these platforms are free. It is irresponsible of you not to use free platforms. And so now I posted at 9 o'clock and 9:01 and 9:02 and 9:03 about us. And then you gain X amount of followers that are like, wait, who's that? I want to interview with him too. Does he have a podcast? Is that a documentary? Is that a business show? What is that? And they go down the rabbit hole. They research you now. What just happened? We're both building a personal brand because we're called leveraging. You're leveraging my personal brand. I'm also leveraging yours. I'm leveraging yours because you're edifying me because I'm doing some podcast with you or a documentary or a TV show. They don't know. They don't really fully understand. And so I'm leveraging you because I look cool sitting next to you. You're leveraging my personal brand because I have a bunch of followers. And they're like, wait a minute. How do I get to be in the chair across from him? See what's happening? Mm-hmm. All of that was free. All that was from a phone. The phone that you carry with you all day and night. I'm not asking you to do anything different. It's in the moments that you're at work or you're doing some of your passion projects or hobbies. It's your career, it's your family, it's sports, it's travel. It's just your actual life. Pull out your phone sometimes and document it. You don't need to create all this fancy content. You don't need fancy video editors. You don't need fancy graphics. You take photos in real life situations. You make videos explaining, hey, I'm doing this interview. It's Sunday afternoon, blah, 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 blah. And then you go to the sports game. You're like, hey, I'm about to walk into the sports game. Super excited to see Phoenix Suns, LA Clippers, blah, 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 blah. Hey, guess what? I'm going to work today. Had a long weekend. I'm excited to get back to work at the real estate office, blah, 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 blah. You're documenting your real life because you really went to the game. You really go to work. You really did that. Like you really do these things. If you document it, you're building a personal brand. Because now all of us that are watching, like, whoa, he had a really busy weekend. He did an interview. He went to a sports game. Now he's back at work. Whoa. Boom, you edify yourself, edify yourself, edify yourself. None of it costs anything. And you didn't do anything different from your normal life. And so I try to break down that social media is not overwhelming. You do not need to create pieces of content for every single platform. You just make one piece of content for one platform, repurpose it for all the other platforms. And one last thing. You can make all that content on a Saturday or Sunday in a couple hours, and it'll be all your content for the whole month. You do not need to make content every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You do not need fresh content. It is not time sensitive. When you can have a time sensitive situation, pull your phone out. So at the sports game, that's time sensitive. But when you're talking about your business, your career, your passion or hobby, nobody cares. They don't care if it's Wednesday or Saturday, when you filmed it or when the photograph was from. Nobody cares. It's not that important. What they do care about is one of four things. Are you going to teach them something? Are you going to make them laugh? Are you going to pique their curiosity? Or are you going to make some shareable content that they can share with their friends? If you don't make the post about yourself and you make it about them, they will share it. And so you're building a personal brand by doing these four things in your real life for free. That's how you build a personal brand.
You threw out a ton of great take-home nuggets there. I love, because I think the social media thing, for me and for a lot of people, like you said, can be intimidating because there's so many out there. And looking at it, I feel like, oh, and you got to do something every day. Right? That gets a little overwhelming.
You can just do something one day.
I love that you said
and
that.
Post every day.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So if I'm getting into real estate and I'm going to buy homes and flip them. So I need all these people. I need connection. I need to find the homes, need to find buyers, etc. if I'm building my brand, would you recommend my brand for the business is all encompassing? Like that, my wife and I went to the game. We went to Italy,
Yep.
and hey, we got this house we're working on. Would you encompass it, or would you?
I absolutely would make 1 page, not 2 pages. Let me give you an example. Can you give me the name of the CEO of American Airlines?
Not today.
Can you give me the name of the CEO of United Airlines?
Not today. I've been out of the airline business a while.
But if I asked you who the CEO of Virgin Airlines was, you know the answer. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's a personal brand. We know Richard Branson runs Virgin Airlines. Who the heck is the CEO of Southwest, United, American Airlines, etc., Delta? No idea. That's a personal brand. And what's interesting is Richard Branson is richer than all of them combined. You know why? He has a personal brand. Richard Branson doesn't have one thing. He doesn't just have airlines. He's got like 100 different companies and licenses. Hotels and casinos in Las Vegas, record labels and everything you can imagine. Beverages, food companies, everything. Why? Because he has a personal brand. But Richard Branson and Virgin are synonymous with each other.
Sure.
If I say the word Virgin, you know Richard Branson. And so you want one profile that's all-encompassing. You and your wife, you're at work, boom, you're flipping a house. You're hanging out with the kids, you're traveling, playing some basketball, boom, real estate. Because then it becomes more safe for us to watch. If you just posted real estate every single day, you're pitching us, right? I don't want to see real estate every single day. And I'm going to have more of an emotional attachment if you show us the process. The other problem people do in the real estate game is they only show the end result. They go buy a house to flip, and they show us this beautiful $421,000 house, 3 bedrooms, perfectly manicured, 2 palm trees and white picket fence. Well, when we see that post, there's not going to be that much engagement because I just see a cool looking house and then I scroll right by. But what if when you first bought that house and it was a dump and you bought it for $246,000 and you show us and you walk through, you're like, you're stepping over stuff and you got to like rip out something from the floor and the lamp is hanging out of the ceiling and there's wires coming out. You're like, oh my God. And then next week you show us the roofing guys there, the electrician's fixing that, the guys out there redoing the landscaping and they're installing the 2 palm trees. And then the week after they're installing the white picket fence and they're redoing the doors and they're helping in the back. They don't have a pool, but they're making a nice little garden in the back. And then your wife's putting in plants there and a tomato garden there and you're explaining that, well, if I add this garden here, it adds the value. And then next week you show us a security company coming in and putting in a Ring doorbell system with the camera on it. That's our house now. All your followers, that's our house. I feel emotionally attached. I watched you put the freaking doors in. I watched you put the alarm system in. I watched you fix the grass. I watched you put the trees in for weeks and weeks. And now 2 months of you flipping the house and you're explaining, I spent $8,000 on this and it increases the price of the house by $21,000. Well, that's interesting. I had to fix this and the electrician messed up because it doesn't need to be perfect. Perfect's not real. This is real. The end result picture of the perfect little white picket fence house, that's not real. Show us the process. Guess what happens when you list it and you post the final picture of the before and after? Here's the house you guys saw me buy for $246,000. Now it's $421,000. I invested $16,800, blah, blah, blah. So my potential spread is this. Here's what happened. You guys saw when this happened with the plumbing. You guys saw what happened with the gardening, blah, blah, blah. All of us are rooting for you. All of us are going to share it with our friends that live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. All of us are going to be talking about it because that's our house now. We watched it. That's why people show us behind the scenes on American Idol and UFC and all these things. They show us backstories. That's our fighter now. That's our singer now. It's the same thing with your social media. Show us the bad stuff. Show us the process. Show us the whole behind the scenes and not just the perfect, pretty picture at the end.
And it was free.
And you had to do it anyway. Everything I just said you had to do anyway.
Sure.
You got to fix the light. You got to put in the grass. You got to fix the trees. You got to put in the fence. You're doing it anyway. Pull your phone out.
Most people don't do that, do they?
Correct.
It seems so obvious when you say it.
I do not talk about rocket science very much. The reason people like my speeches on stage is because I break it down very, 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 very basic, because it is that basic. Everything I talk about is human behavior and real world stuff that you can apply for free. Nobody needs to have a bunch of money. You don't need fancy videographers. I don't need you to change your life. I need you to take out your phone in the same exact situation that you already do and post about it. That's it. You're already going to do it anyways. You're a real estate agent anyways. You play basketball anyways. You cook with your family anyways. You do these things. You're traveling anyways. You're doing these things anyways. Your phone's in your pocket anyways. There's nothing that I ask people to do. I'm like Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder. Like, you should post on social media, but I'm also not making it hard. Sounds like a lot. Oh my God, Dan wants me to post on 6 different accounts. I do, and it'll take you 4 minutes. Literally 4 minutes. But what if you got one client, Mr. Real Estate Agent? One. The one person that bought an $800,000 crib, and you got 3 to 6%. Was it worth it?
Have you worked with real estate people on this?
Of course.
What kind of results have you seen from it? Like, I love your story about the guy that dribbles.
Yeah.
You let him stay at your house.
Mm-hmm. So with the real estate agents, it's much easier. I make 60-second highlight videos about them, and then I have a bunch of real estate related accounts post about them. And then I'll have influencers or business related people go to a property with them and post content with them. And so if this influencer has 300,000 followers and they're like, hey, you're my real estate agent, we're going to go look at this house. I'm trying to buy it for 800,000. Can you help me with the process? Then a week later, I have them go back with the same person, the influencer and the real estate agent, and showcase them doing like the paperwork. Then I show them a week later with the keys or some kind of situation, whether they're getting the keys to the property or they're starting the remodel process if they're not moving in. I do 3 post scenarios because it helps edify and it builds the storyline instead of just them influencer with the real estate agent showing the keys. Nobody cares, right? The 300,000 people know that the influencer has some money. They're not that excited for them, but they saw the initial interaction. They saw how the house looked to begin with. They saw them filling out the paperwork. Now when they post it with the keys, that's our house now. We all like that house, right? We all saw the process. And so you are the guy that did it for her, right? The influencer, you helped her buy the house. We're all aligned now. You helped the process of our hero. She's our hero, right? With the 300,000 of us following her, like her, excited about her, etc. So you helped the hero in the story. And so the way I help influencers make their content is I'll either tie in influencers with them. I'll create a highlight video that's usually 60 seconds. I'll post it across a bunch of accounts. And then I'll get media to interact with them, whether that's podcasts in the real estate space or it's local newspapers or magazines or TV shows. Local news channels work really, really well because the clientele that watches it, the fan base that watches it, is usually going to be 35 to 65, has some money. They're usually on their way to work when they're watching the morning news or the nightly news. And so I'm doing a lot of really basic, obvious things. It just sounds like magic.
What's really interesting to me is you're not a real estate guy yet. You've already learned a lot in the last couple of days, but you're not a real estate guy yet. Yet you can help anybody that's in real estate.
Because I can help make them famous, right? I can't help them like on the nitty gritty of them flipping the house. I'm not going to change what they do in that scenario, but they're the expert at that. So I wouldn't go try to flip a house without asking them. Vice versa, I make people famous. And so that's how I can help them.
So if giving me advice, I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, right? And I've decided that, or maybe I've already got a couple homes, I've dabbled in real estate, or I'm just starting, right? And I want to get better at it. And I've realized that connections are a big thing. How do I find properties, right? There's a lot of other people out there trying to find properties, right? How do I find them? How do I get a little bit of a competitive advantage? What are you going to tell me to do?
Find the biggest agents, mortgage brokers in your city and become friends with them. And the way you actually do that, it sounds like, well, how am I going to do that? Throw an event. How many real estate events do you think are in Cedar Rapids, Iowa? That many, right? But you live there anyways. You know the local restaurant guy or the bar, or you know the local hotel or a car dealership, or your friend, she just got this new mansion. You don't need to spend money. Throw an event on a Monday through Thursday, so it's an off night. Don't do it on the weekend. And say, this Tuesday at 7 p.m., I'm throwing a real estate mixer in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at my friend's house. And you make a little flyer on eventbrite.com or evite or events.com, all free. And it's a picture of the house. And it says, this speaker, that's you, is going to be there. This speaker, that's her. She's going to be there. And this speaker is going to be there from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We're having a real estate mixer. Only accredited real estate investors can be there. So you're not expecting hundreds of people. You want 36 people to show up. And then what's great about it is you have a location. You have a date. It's Tuesday, 7 o'clock. You have an invite. It's free. Everything's been free. You now have an excuse to call anybody, and I mean anybody, within 1 hour of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Say, hey, I'm throwing this real estate event at this mansion Tuesday, 7 o'clock. I have these two speakers. That's you and me. And she's trying to get her also. Tuesday, 7 o'clock, I'd love for you to come. What are they going to say? Mansion, free drinks, great real estate people. I'm going to go. And then the person that she just called happens to be the president of Coldwell Banker. And so her next call, and her next 30 calls, she's like, I got the president of Coldwell Banker coming in at 7 o'clock. Guess what's going to happen? Every one of those people are going to say yes. And then she calls the rich guy that has 17 properties, that lady that owns 32 RV parks. She has an excuse to call anybody, email, direct message, or call literally anybody that's super, super rich or in the real estate game to come to her event Tuesday, 7 o'clock at that mansion that she paid $0 for.
How do you pay $0 for the mansion?
It's her friend.
Oh. Just network.
Her friend wants you to have a thing there because she wants to look cool. She just bought the house. She just got divorced, just bought the house. She's excited. And now she's going to have 36 real estate people at her house and 7 rich dudes that maybe she's going to meet somebody. I'm saying this in real life because I've done it over and over and over. These are not fantasies or esoteric theories. I've done hundreds of events. I've never spent a ton of money on booking the venues because in these scenarios, people want wealthy people or interesting people or strategic people or people in their industry or niche to network with. And so if you book a cool car dealership or you book a cool hotel or you book a restaurant or an art gallery or a studio for free or really, really cheap, just pay like a cleaning fee, they want you to bring 36 people in the real estate game to their art gallery or their car dealership. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so instead of going in there like, hey, how much do you guys charge? You're like, no. Hey, I'm going to bring you 36 rich people in the real estate game this Tuesday, 7 o'clock. I know you're not busy on Tuesdays. They're not. Nobody's busy on Tuesday nights. Now you've edified yourself because now Tuesday rolls around. Guess who everyone wants to take pictures with? Guess who everyone wants to make video content with? Guess who everybody's there is going to be posting on social media with while you're holding the microphone Tuesday, 7 o'clock? You're the single mom with 3 kids that plays basketball, bakes cookies. And now you're hosting an event at a mansion with all these real estate people. And you're up on stage interviewing the CEO of Coldwell Banker.
What's the most creative you've been to create an event?
I threw the world's largest pizza festival. So I took over a mansion in Bel Air and we converted it to a pizza festival. And I brought in Tyga, 2 Chainz, Wiz Khalifa, and all these performers. That was a lot of fun.
What were you promoting?
Nothing.
No, just.
I throw large-scale events as my excuse to call anybody I want. In that scenario, I had 900 models and influencers. I didn't sell any tickets, and I invited 100 business friends. The 100 business friends really wanted to meet the 900 girls and the influencers. The girls wanted to have a pizza festival because that sounds fun, and they got to see performances by Tyga, 2 Chainz, and Wiz Khalifa. For me, people still talk about that party half a decade later. I'm doing another one August 29th. And so that's my most creative event, yeah.
Do you remember the first event you threw?
I threw an elevator night, which is my free event for entrepreneurs. I've thrown that 39 times. My first one was upstairs of a jewelry store. And I invited 40 people and 150 showed up. And it was a big problem because it's not the size space for that. And all these football players and nightclub owners and people I was excited to meet, I didn't invite them. I invited 40 people that I knew, and then they start saying, hey, can I invite the guy that owns 6 nightclubs in town? I'm like, yes. Hey, my friend owns 3 car dealerships. Can he come? Yes. Hey, this lady just bought her 15th property. Can she come? Absolutely. And it just, but for me, I'm the host. Everybody walks over to me and introduces me to the lady with 15 properties and the guy with all the car dealerships and the guy with all the nightclubs. You know how much it cost me to throw that event? $350. that was upstairs in art gallery. I didn't even rent the art gallery. I rented upstairs, their freaking attic. And the only $350 was for the food and drinks. And the food and drinks was pizza, snacks, and some alcohol. That was it.
So I asked that because I figured, look, for most of us, I think throwing an event sounds like this big, intimidating thing, right? Because the events we've gone to look like that. But you pulled that off for $350, had way more people attend, and some people with influence,
This
money.
is pre-social media, so it's not like I got to sit and post about it.
What was your goal with that one?
Meet people.
Just meet people.
Most of my events are to meet people. I'm not pitching anything. I'm not selling anything.
You just build relationships.
Stuff happens when you put a bunch of interesting people that are either strategic or in a niche or something's happening. Those people come together, whether you bring together a bunch of artists or a bunch of influencers or a bunch of athletes, a bunch of car dealership owners, a bunch of real estate people, a bunch of jewelry, chefs, sport, whatever. Any industry that you like, you can literally throw an event for that industry, and all of a sudden, your Rolodex becomes 50 to 100 people, of new, interesting people that all want to talk with you because you had the word is the balls to go throw the event, right? Like you went and did it, and you did the first real estate event in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and you're the single mom with 3 kids. They don't look at you like that anymore. Now, you're the hot shot in town. You're the one everyone wants to be around. You interviewed the CEO of Coldwell Banker. You interviewed with the lady with 15 properties. You interviewed that guy that has 17 car dealerships. All of them want to thank you and think about you for years. The CEO of Coldwell Banker is going to thank you. To you, you're like, I'm just a single mom with 3 kids. I bake cookies. To them, you threw this awesome event and 36 people in the space came over and 15 of them took pictures and selfies with them. You have an emotional attachment with them forever. Now what happens when you throw your next event? Coldwell Banker CEO is going to invite his friends, invite their whole executive team, maybe invite their whole staff. Who knows? You don't know. Your risk basis is nothing, right? Yeah. He never invites anyone, or maybe he doesn't come to the next 4 events. So what? Doesn't cost you anything. But what if he does like it? What if he's like, hey, why don't you come work for me as director of marketing? Or hey, why don't you go? Can I bring you over from that firm over to my firm? You don't know. Only good things can happen. That's the best part about all this. Your risk basis is nothing. The positive side is you meet interesting people. That lady, that guy, that lady, that guy. And stuff happens.
I'm sitting here with a grin on my face I can't wipe off because it seems so doable the way you lay it out. And then I'm like, so a couple things hit me. One is, why don't people? And 2 is, you must have just kind of been born without a fear of failure. Because you were hesitant to say, you got to have the balls to do it, but you do.
The reason I'm not scared to fail is that we're all going to fail. You look at the biggest, most famous zillionaires in history, all of them are failures. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, every single one of them, not only have they failed before they were billionaires, they fail now. You know how many companies Zuckerberg has bought for like 400 million and 2.2 billion, 800 million? All this press, all this, blah, blah, blah. And then 9 months later, it's gone. And they buy another big company and then it's gone. How could they go bankrupt? How can that company be gone? They have infinite money above them and they're gone. They have failures. Unlimited money, unlimited access, tens of thousands of employees, and they have companies that fail over and over and over. So why the hell would I care if I fail? And I say a line that hits people pretty bluntly, and I say it quite often. Right now, if a bird pooped in the middle of this interview, all over my shoulder and then onto the floor, I'd clean it up in front of you. You're not going to be at my funeral. So I don't care what you think, if you think that's beneath me or nothing is beneath me. We had an event recently, and one of the guys got into a fight. It was a staged fight, and he started bleeding out of his eye. There's blood on the floor. It's my event. People paid $15,000 to come to my event. I was on the floor cleaning up his blood. In the middle of the scene that we had staged, there was an accident. He got hit, which he was fine. Blood comes out of his eye, and all I can think about is, in front of the 40 people that paid a lot of money to be there, to me, it's at my event, I'm literally on the floor looking for cocktail napkins to clean up his blood. There's staff, there's attendees, there's literally cocktail waitresses, there's full staff there. I could have said, woo, woo, or hey, I got on the floor and cleaned it up. Didn't even think for 1 millisecond of anything else to do but to clean up the floor. And so I'm not scared to fail. I'm not scared to mess up. I'm not scared for poop on the ground or blood on the floor. None of it bothers me. Because you're not going to be my funeral. And by the way, the few people that are going to be my funeral, they should want me to be the guy that still cleans up the floor. And if they think anything different...
Yeah, you have you take full ownership. That's probably a big secret. Well, I don't know if secret's the right word, but that's a big part of your success, right?
If I throw the event... And by the way, I also do these things to prevent anyone from feeling awkward about my event. If I say that there's going to be 36 and only 22 people show up, people can be like, ah, ha, ha, ha. I don't tell them how many people are going to show up. Whether 36 show up or 300 show up or 5 show up, they don't know the difference. I don't say a number. Any of my events, I literally never say a number. I also, for the most part, don't tell them who's going to be the speaker or the performer. There's no room for disappointment, except I can get disappointed in my own mind, in my own heart. You don't know. And you don't know if it's supposed to be 36 or 5 or 500. And so there's ways to protect your ego, if you want to, by just removing things for people to talk crap about.
I like it. So if I'm throwing an event, I don't need to say, right? Less is more.
Absolutely.
Right? So where do you have an idea which way you're going to go with real estate?
I'm just investing with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're meeting some of them through all this?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's 100 members and there's all these great instructors. And some of them have done literally thousands and thousands of deals. And so I remove my risk of real estate is if I try to go buy a fourplex and remodel it and sell it or rent it out, there's going to be so many errors that can compound along the way. I went and bought it for $800,000. My friend over here, he could have bought it for $722,000. He knows this and this and this and this and this. I did a 60-day close. He would have done a 7-day close. And so he could have saved me 53 days because he knows how to do this and this and this and this. I paid 3.6%. He would have paid 2.6% because he knows this and this and this and this. Then I pay the painter $15,000. He would have got it for $8,400. And I paid the landscaping guy $6,000. I got a steal. He said it was gonna be $8,000. I got it for $6,000. Nope, he pays $4,000 because he's been working with him for years. Well, I got to pay the guy to sandblast outside and clean all the pressure wash. Paid $500 for that. I got a steal. He normally charges $1,000, 50% off. Nope, he gets it for free because he just posted about him. Everything compounds when you look at the scope of work on that one fourplex, from before, during, and after. And so, why would I try to reinvent the wheel when my friend has the nicest wheel?
It's one of the consistent themes as I've talked to people is they get a mentor, find a mentor, so you can get all of those hacks, those shortcuts.
And I go one step farther. I'm not even asking them to be my mentor. I just want to invest alongside them. You do it. You're already going to do the fourplex, and you're going to do it again and again and again and again and again. Let me buy $50K. Let me buy $25K. Let me buy $1 million. Let me buy $500K. Let me buy a piece of what you're already going to do. It helps them. Everyone in the real estate game always needs liquidity. They always need money because there's always more deals. Always. So the richest guys in the real estate game are constantly taking in capital to do more deals. Because they know if I buy this place for $1 million or $10 million or $50 million, it's just math. And so even as they go through all the levels of the game and from the $400K house to the $1 million to the $5 million to the $50 million commercial property, it's just math. And they always need capital. And so I'm not scared to ask them if I can buy a piece of the deal that they like.
I like it. It's yet another way to get into the real estate game and invest. Find people who are doing it,
right,
and invest alongside them.
Correct.
Because they know how to do it all. I like that. So how long have you been doing these masterminds?
So I've been throwing the events for 8 years, but the mastermind events for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm. How do people get involved in this?
So we have the 100 million mastermind, which we sold out in 2019. That's $100,000 per person. And we sold out all 100 spots for that. We have the Avengers Mastermind, which is focused on real estate and investing. That one's $30,000. That one we sold 100 spots, but we're actually able to fill up to 200 people in that one. We look for people that have done at least 5 deals, or they're an accredited investor. So they've done at least 5 real estate transactions, or they're an accredited investor that actually wants to be a part of the game. They're not just like a looky-loo that's trying to hear about real estate. I want them to have some expertise, or some money to play with so that the experts in the room can show them deals that they could potentially invest into. And so we were able to get that many people into the group because we create experiences for them to network. And so now if you go to this room, there's 100 people there, and 65 of them are deep in the real estate game, 20 of them are just wealthy investors, and 15 of them are people that have done flips, and they've done creative deals, and they've done high rises, and they've done whatever, commercial properties. Now, every time they're doing interactions or engaging, they look to me as who brought them there. I'm not taking a commission. I'm not asking for anything special. I just want them to make sure they're actually falling in love with each other and actually doing deals. From there, people start to refer us more members because they're having such a great time at these events. We've thrown events where we rent out the Diamondback Stadium in Phoenix, and we have Shaquille O'Neal or Jeremy Piven or different characters. We have Wiz Khalifa performing, and we have Emmett Smith. We have different characters come to our events. That makes content that then gets shown to people that might want to go to our events in the future. And so people go to Avengers Mastermind. They watch us on Instagram. Avengers Mastermind is the Instagram name. So they'll go there and watch all this content like, whoa, we see this person in this arena and this stadium and this athlete and this person. They see that, the fun side of it. But then throughout the process of the weekend, so Friday night is the fun part. Saturday daytime is the intensive training. And then Sunday is the experience part. And so they see the different elements, and one of them might cause emotional trigger that leads to that top of mind awareness. So whether they see the Friday night, like, oh, there's Wiz Khalifa, or oh, there's Shaquille O'Neal, they see this character, like, whoa, I want to go for that. Or they see the Saturday daytime, like, wow, 8 hours of intensive training by this guy, that lady, this guy, that lady. They might want to go for that. They just want to learn. Or they see Sunday and they're like, wow, Diamondback Stadium or Dallas Cowboys, and they see the experience part, they might want to go just to network. And so I created the mastermind to have these different experiences and different emotional triggers to attract people that might want one or two of those aspects of the overarching weekend.
Could you one more time go, with social media, you talk about that content has to hit 4 different things.
Sure.
Can you one more time, because I think that's a big thing.
So social media content has to have 4 different emotional triggers for people to want to share your content. 1 is you pique their curiosity. 2 is you entertain them. So you make them laugh, make them cry, make them think. 3 is you make them do something or show them something that they've never seen before or that they can share with their friends. So that's got to be funny or interesting. Or 4th, you make something that's going to literally impact their lives. You're going to teach them something, you're going to show them something, and same concept, they will now engage with you or share it with their friends. When you do one of those 4 things, or hopefully you do 2, 3, or 4 of those things, you now will create that emotional situation where people will want to share your content, repost your content, share it with their friends, comment, and engage. Because if you don't do those things, you just make the post about yourself, there's not that much for me to say if you're just posting a selfie and you're flexing for me or you're wearing a bikini. How many times can I tell you you look hot, you look great, or congratulations? Not that many times, right? If you do that 3 or 4 or 5 times, I'm not going to say it every day, right? I'm not going to tell you look hot every single day. I'm not going to tell you look great or congratulations every single day. But if you make content for me, where you're teaching me, making me laugh, making me curious, or making something shareable, that is how you get people to want to share your content.
I appreciate it so much, Dan. I mean, you've given us some really actionable items to build a network, build a business, and I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
That concludes James's interview with Dan Fleischman. What an interesting character, and to see someone who's created success, wants to protect it, and then figure out how to do that with real estate and leverage off other people's minds. Quite a story. Glad you were here for it. Next up, James sits with Dr. Tom Burns. Now, why is a doctor a surgeon, an orthopedic surgeon? Why is he talking about real estate? You might know that very often surgeons are consumed by their work and they don't have much time for themselves, their families, their health, their well-being. I have several friends who are surgeons. But in this particular interview, you're going to learn that someone wanted to create time and wealth for themselves, create space in their life to have a life. And that's exactly what Dr. Tom Burns did. So learn how he did it. You're going to learn some things that you might be able to do too. Enjoy this interview.
Tom, thanks so much for being here. It's the first time I've met you, so if you would give me a little bit about who you are, what you do.
You bet. So I'm a product of Texas, from Austin, Texas, and currently I do a lot of things, but going back to the start, I started life as a doctor. Started as an orthopedic surgeon. Went into that because I was an athlete when I was young, but unfortunately I wasn't good enough. Anybody was going to pay me for it. So went into orthopedics and sports medicine so I could hang out with athletes, and ended up, and in my training I discovered some other ways to sort of create income, such as in the real estate world. I did those two parallel paths for a number of years, and so now I run a private equity company. I do real estate work. I just retired from medicine, and through some other avenues, I do end up teaching people maybe how to create lifestyle where they can travel when they want to and have some passive income.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
What's the private equity? What do you
So
do?
it's called Presario Ventures. It's a real estate company. We build apartments.
Oh, you
Yeah.
build them.
We build them, yes. We're developers since about 2009.
How's that going?
It's going really well right now. So this market's a little crazy.
Are you in a particular area? Are you all over?
We used to be in New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas, but we've divested of those other states, and we're primarily in Texas now. Everybody's moving here. They're coming from both coasts. Everybody wants to live in Texas. A lot of jobs. Elon Musk helped us out a lot in Austin, so more jobs coming. So it has really been a hotbed. So when we build something, typically our 5 or 10 year pro forma gets squished down into 3 years because everybody wants a piece of real estate in Texas.
So how the transition from orthopedic surgery to how and why to real estate?
Sure. I started going back again to my training. All I did was play sports and chase women when I was old enough to do that. At least I was successful in sports. So I went through college, went through med school, no financial training, and was in my training. I was learning how to be an orthopedic surgeon. I was already Dr. Burns and was in my 3rd or 4th year out of 5 years, and I started watching the guys that I was supposed to emulate for the next 40 years, the doctors, right? These guys were in the hospital at 10 o'clock at night. They were on their 3rd or 4th marriage, and they were complaining about not having control. I watched that for a period of time and realized I didn't want to have their money if I had to have their life. So I started looking for something else that was just not correlated with medicine. I loved what I was learning. I just wanted I wanted a happy, fruitful, abundant, and free life. They didn't look like they were having it. I was supposed to be there because I was an indentured servant, but they didn't have to be there at 10 o'clock at night. So I started looking. I looked at a number of things and ran into some dead ends and sort of ran across real estate. I liked it because I could do it on a surgeon's schedule. I could do it part-time or full-time. I could have partners or not. Didn't require a PhD to enter, so there was a low barrier of entry for me, and it moved nice and slow. So I just started learning the real estate world, and I enjoyed some of the benefits of real estate, and just slowly over time, it wasn't a sprint. It was a bit of a marathon, but over time, I just kept learning about real estate, buying things or building things, creating the cash flow that it produces, and putting that back into that business. All of a sudden, one day I looked back, and I was creating more money from my real estate holdings and from my work in real estate than I was as a physician. And most people would say, so that's when you quit, right? Well, no, I loved my job. All I did was I just eliminated the things I didn't like in the doctor world and continued to keep the income. So I had a decade of practicing medicine without needing the money. So it was really fun.
So what did the first foray into real estate look like?
It was bumpy, as always. I finished my training and did some time in Vail, Colorado, and there I learned some more. I was working there training in sports medicine, but I was with the titans of real estate. I got to meet with Arthur Rock and people like that. So I was listening to these people who were all smarter than me, getting as much info as possible. Took that knowledge, came back home and reading and seminars and whatever was available back then. This was a long time ago. This was 30 years ago, so I couldn't do it on my phone. I had to use newspapers. But I came home and I paid off things first. So I paid off student loans, paid a little bit down on my house, paid my parents back because I was broke when I got to town. I had to feed my young family. But once I had a bit of a base, I just went out to buy something. So I bought a student condominium at West Campus on the University of Texas. It just happened to be the thing that was available. It cash flowed. And during that process, I learned how to get management. I learned how to get an appraiser. I learned about mortgage banking. This was all kind of on-the-job training. But I leveraged the people that knew what they were doing, and I met more people that knew what they were doing. So I bought another one, which was a little bit easier. Then I bought another one, and then over time, I got to know that market really well, like the back of my hand. So much so that one night, back in the day when we had newspapers, on Sunday nights, they'd have a section that said, apartments and condos for sale. Right? So I'm reading it on a Sunday night. I'm in my chair, and I read one, and I looked up at my wife, and I said, I'm buying this tomorrow. She goes, how can you buy it? It's just an ad in the paper. How do you know? I said, look, I know that market. I know the rents. I said, unless it's covered with mold and rats and mice, somebody's mispriced it. So at the time, I was a doctor. I'll just tell you, I was on 38th Street, and this property was on 30th Street. Happened to be the same cross street. So I got up in the morning, I called the broker and said, hey, I want to see this place. So we set like a 9:30 appointment. I had an office full of patients. But we had a back door, so I filled the office. I went out the back door, zipped down 8 blocks, looked at the place, found out that it was mispriced, made an offer right on the spot, got it accepted, came back. Patients never knew I was gone. It's a good story. It was a long time ago.
Now we know why we're always waiting at the doctor's
Exactly. We're all out there making our fortunes in real estate. But it was a great story because it's got so many lessons in it. I knew that market just from experience, and I hadn't been taught that in a classroom. I'd been taught it in the classroom of life. I learned it, and I knew it so well that I was the first one to call the broker and the first one to look at the place. They accepted the offer. Well, it turned out that it was a father who had bought it for his daughter 4 years ago so she could go to college. So they did that. She had graduated. He was from another city. He was from down in Houston. The broker was a friend of the father. He leased office space in downtown Austin. So you put those two things together. He didn't realize that the market in real estate on West Campus had done that. So I got it secured, got it appraised, and it was one of those deals. They wrote me a check for $1,000 at closing. So a true no money down deal. You know, it wasn't done on purpose that way, but it worked out very nicely. But it was because I knew the market and acted quickly, and it worked out for me. I still own it today.
Oh, good. So you've been doing mostly multi-units?
No, I've had
the first one was a student condo.
Student condos.
How many condos?
I ended up with a couple dozen of those. So it was
the first one you bought?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went and you jumped in both feet.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you finance it?
I had banks and mostly banks back then. Yeah, so it was all recourse debt. I got that taken care of after a while. But I liked the market. I liked the cash flow. Eventually, it got discovered, so the numbers didn't work quite so well. But that, you know, I went a lot of rabbit holes. I bought some manufactured home property that did well. Still own portions of that right now. I bought an apartment down in another university area before I really knew what I was doing. I kind of blew that when I barely got out of that with my shirt. I wish I'd had it now, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was good with condos. So in the interim, what happened was I reached a point where I didn't know I needed to grow more, and I could read as much as I could, and I could learn more about student condos, but I wanted to do more, and I wanted to kind of scale things. I was really enjoying what I was doing. So I had a friend who was a developer. And so I said, and we'd been on vacation together. I knew what he did. I said, look, I really like what you do. Will you teach me? He laughed. He goes, you're a doctor. You're supposed to be doing that. I said, yeah, I know. He goes, okay. So I worked for him for a year and a half for free. Took time off as an orthopedic surgeon, but I was investing in some stuff. I didn't realize how much I was investing in, but I wanted to learn this. So we were doing some bank deals and build-to-suits and land deals. And I was running around town looking for land to purchase. And what happened was that education turned into a certain piece of land where actually his mother's dressmaker said, you got to get me out of this house. Place is too busy. Well, that little house was surrounded by 14 other lots with 16 acres. And we put that together and built a 155,000 square foot medical office complex that just he and I own to this day. So a willingness for me to learn from somebody else turned into a pretty nice project.
So you're in a smattering of everything. You're not just single family. You're all over the real estate market, commercial, real.
Yes.
don't you have, I want to go back to the beginning, don't you have some kind of a link with Robert Kiyosaki?
I do, yes.
What is that story?
So it's about 24 years now. It came from back in those days when I was reading everything I could. So I was reading whatever books were there, Think and Grow Rich, Magic of Thinking Big, anything else like that. And so there actually came a day when my family was gone, and so I'm doing errands. It's summertime, early summer, I'm not sure. It was hot out, and I had to go get my car washed, so I dropped my car off. It's one of those places where you give them your car, and it runs through the brushes, and they wipe it all down. I went to the counter to go pay my bill, and back on the left side was this handwritten sign that said books for sale. It was a car wash. People don't sell books at a car wash. But there it was, and you could see it was brightly colored, purple and gold. It's had the words rich on it. I said, let me see that. She brings it up, and it says, what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor don't. And I thought, anybody arrogant enough to say that, it's got to have something to say to me. And so I'd buy anything. So I said, just put it on my bill. So I didn't think much of it. Went home, did some other stuff, tossed it on my office desk at home, and did the rest of whatever I wanted to do that day. So I was heading to bed at 11:30 at night. And
you remember this like yesterday.
Oh yeah, I've told the story a few times. But it was a turning point. So I'm passing through the office. And I thought, what am I going to read one day? Because I had never even opened the book up. I opened it up, kind of liked what I saw. And I read a first page, read a couple of pages, leaned against the desk and read a few more, and then sat down just to read a chapter or two to see what I'd finish one day. And about 3:30 in the morning, it was done. So obviously it held my attention. It's 3:30 in the morning. I wanted to tell somebody that I had read, at least in my opinion, was the best personal finance book I had ever read. So I waited till about 6:30 or 7 in the morning. I called a friend and said, I just read the best book I've ever read. He said, yeah, sure, but it sounds good. I made sure he got the book within the next few days. In the interim, I went back to that car wash and bought the rest of the books. I thought, I got to give this to some friends. So I bought all those books. Called my friend, gave him the book. He eventually read it and he said, you're right. This is a really good book. So on the front cover, if you look at many books, there's contact information for the publisher, and there was the publisher's number. So we called the number, and expecting, the administrator or receptionist, somebody to call. Well, the person on the other end of the line was Robert Kiyosaki, which we didn't know who this was. This was an unknown author. And he said, yeah, we bought your books. He goes, hey, who are you guys? And the guy who I'd given it to was a guy that was in the Amway organization. And I'd been in the Amway organization for a while. Didn't do much in the Amway thing, but I sure learned a lot of personal development, a lot of stuff that I learned. And he said, how many books do you have left? And Robert says, well, I only printed 1,000. He said, so I sent 24 to Austin, so I got 976 left. And my friend says, I'll take them all. I goes, well, you guys are crazy. So we actually flew out there to meet Robert. Flew to Arizona, met him, taught us how to play cash flow. My wife won the game, and he gave her the game. That was her prize. And so we got to know him and his wife, Kim, and we're getting ready to leave and go back home to Texas. And he starts reaching into the trunk of his car, handing me more books. I said, dude, I don't want to take all your books. He goes, don't worry, nobody's going to buy them anyway. So a bit of an understatement. And so since then, we became friends. I had him come to Austin and talk to some people because I liked what he said. He opened up he had the big, his flip chart, and he drew a thing called the Cash Flow Quadrant, which is his second book. Well, he hadn't published that book yet, and so eventually he started coming out with Cash Flow Quadrant. He gave me the galley proof. I got to help him edit that. So. And got to see the first presentation of the Cash Flow Quadrant. It's just kind of gone from there. So we've stayed in touch, and I just saw him last week, as a matter of fact.
So would you say that book sent you on this path?
I think I was on
accelerated it?
It accelerated for sure, because it really did. I knew I wanted something. I wanted that money that was coming in that didn't require me to see a patient or do surgery, and kind of came in while I was sleeping or vacationing. I didn't have a name for it. And in Kiyosaki's book, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, there is a graphic. That's a simple 5-year-old graphic that's got 2 boxes on top of each other and 2 boxes next to each other. It's the income statement and balance sheet. And when he showed that if you own assets and the assets produce cash flow that goes into the income box, that's all I needed to know. My whole business plan was to put stuff in that box so it would put things into the income box. That's all I did.
That was your nugget took away that changed it.
Absolutely. And I didn't care what it was. That's why when you say I'm in a lot of stuff, it's because I didn't care what it was. If it put $1 in the if it put $1 in the income box, I'd get it. And so, because hopefully one day I'd have a bunch of those dollars, or that $1 would grow to 10 or 100 or 1,000. And so I just let the passive income start making babies, and that's kind of what created the lifestyle that I was able to lead over some time.
Excellent. So how financing along the way?
Yeah.
What have you learned?
Well, I learned my biggest lesson in 2008. Surprise.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned first, debt is awesome. I love debt because it helps make you rich. There's a lot of other components of wealth, but as far as the money part, debt's really helpful. So early on, I would go to a bank, get debt. You asked about the condominiums before. So that was recourse debt. It was debt that I signed my name to. No problem with that. I always intend on paying things back. But over time, as the projects grew larger, I learned about non-recourse debt. So I had a mix of that. But in 2008, I had a lot of debt out. Some of it was personal mezzanine debt that I had personally guaranteed to friends and investors and people like that. And things got a little dicey in 2008, as everybody remembers. And so I spent several years getting lines of credit from banks and doing what I could. I paid off every investor plus interest. Not a one lost money. And because of that, I missed the first several years of the real estate sale that was going on after the recession. So what did I learn? I've learned that I typically, and actually 100% these days, use non-recourse debt for when I buy things.
How does one do that?
It depends on the asset type. In the multifamily world, the debt's tremendous. Tremendous. Non-recourse debt, it's high leverage. You can titrate your leverage how you want. So yes, it's got to be a good enough asset, managed well enough, have a good enough team for the bank or the lender to say, yeah, we'll take a flyer on this thing. Well, they're really not taking a flyer. They've done their underwriting.
Sure.
We've got our equity in the deal. They know that if we go away, if things go bad, they've got an asset that's likely going to be worth more than the debt owed to them. So the debt's dependent on the asset, not so much the borrower.
You've used debt to finance all as you've gone?
Absolutely,
and grown?
absolutely. Yeah, debt really has helped. It helps one leverage things and helps really speed it up.
I think that's one of the scary things for the average person who wants to start getting in, right? Debt is, I grew up with, if you have no debt, have no debt, have no debt.
Right. Well, Ben Franklin says neither a borrower or a lender be, or maybe that was Shakespeare talking to Laertes. It was somebody like that. But they say, stay out of debt. Good advice if you're not educated, and if it's debt on consumer products or what we would call sometimes bad debt. So, if you've got a car that's not making you money, or if you're doing monthly payments on your furniture or anything like that, that's the kind of debt that, although many of us have to have that, it's not producing income for you. So that's, some would call that bad debt. It's just not debt it's not good. So it's nice to have that eliminated. So you'd prefer not to have a lot of consumer debt. But if you've got business debt or real estate debt that's making you money, if I borrow a certain amount of money and the people that are paying me rent from that building are giving me enough to cover all my expenses, all my mortgage payment, and a little bit extra, they're paying off my debt for me. So I'd consider that good debt. So yeah, debt's a two-edged sword. It can bury you if you're not educated, and your defense is your education and your intelligence in the asset class that you're in. So the more you learn and the more you have a good team, then that's not as scary as people think it is.
So what's the team you've built?
So it's partners, it's CPAs that don't just do taxes but actually do planning before. It's bankers, mortgage brokers, managers, property managers, contractors, developers. In the real estate world, it's a big team. And on our team, we've got underwriters and managers and things such as that. So I try to surround myself with people smarter than me. It's not that hard, but it's good to have a lot of them. So if you're not the smartest guy in the room and you got a good team, you can always get your answer from somebody.
Mm-hmm. So when you started out, what mistakes did you make that were probably responsible for you then succeeding.
Yeah, you bet. Sometimes thinking I was too smart is probably the one that comes to mind first. You know, a deal felt good, looked good, kind of looking at the upside and not considering the downside. And so I made some investments where I just knew it felt good, but I didn't know how to work the numbers, and I lost money on those. Then I'd heard and learned about, hey, run this by a third person, a mentor who knows more than you, who's been there, which I did. And mistake number 2 was my mentor said, I'm not so sure that's a good deal, but I was smarter than him, and he turned out to be right again. So lesson learned was I made the decision at that point, if I'm going to trust somebody to be, I'll always look at the numbers, but if I'm asking somebody's advice that's been there, done that, made the mistakes, and if we have diverging opinions, I'll typically follow their opinion, and that has saved me quite a bit of anguish and money over the time.
It's key. How do you find a mentor?
Well,
you weren't in that world.
Sure. Well, you can see people. There are some people putting out content these days. It's a bit easier. There are some people that may be in your inner circle, or you ask somebody that's doing something you want to do. I tell people, just go find somebody that's doing what you want to do. If you don't know anybody, look it up on Facebook. I'm not a big social media guy, but you can look on Facebook or on the internet quickly and find somebody locally that's doing what you like to do. There's local meetup groups. Find somebody there. There's real estate forums. There's Facebook groups. And so the reason I say that is because then you don't have to be so smart. You just start getting around people. You find out that you know this guy and he knows this guy, and eventually you find somebody that you really click with that's been there, and you ask. All they can do is say no. But I do try to counsel people to make sure that you are adding value to them, meaning, you kind of end up having to sell yourself. Here's why it would be good to teach me, because I am ready to go and I've got everything squared away and I'm ready to learn and listen. But mentors are out there, and a lot of people really do want to help. Some of them just want to do it because it's fun to help.
Yeah.
Others have paid programs. Great. If you got to pay for it, that's an investment in your future, and it's worth it. It's not an expense, it's an investment. They're out there.
And you added teacher.
Yes.
That's your title. So you have become a mentor?
Yes, it's happened. It happened by accident, quite honestly. My real estate holdings continue to do what they do, and I ended up writing a book because my friend Robert Kiyosaki suggested you ought to write a book. He said, Tom, you have a story. I said, okay. And so, we all kind of want to write a book, and I thought, well, I'll do that. So I sat down and took his advice. I wrote a book. It took me 2.5 years. But in that 2.5 years, I learned a lot, and I did the research for the book, and I found out that the particular audience that I was directing this book at was pretty unhappy and needed some help. So still wasn't thinking about teaching. I'm just thinking I'm going to try to help these guys. So the book finally finished, and between interviews that I might have given on podcasts and the book that I wrote a few months ago, I get a lot of calls, and so I've been talking to medical students, college students, high school kids, residents, anybody that wants to come by and learn about medicine or money. I'll talk to them about both usually at the same time. Well, I started getting calls from all over the world. So my book went to like 9 countries. So I get these calls, and I wasn't thinking. So I just keep talking to them. Well, when you've got 4 or 5 45-minute calls a day, it kind of fills your day up. So I ended up creating a program where I could help mentor some of them, and going to have another one later. It's just going to be a mastermind that's just a little easier for them to get to. In the days of Zoom, it's going to be helpful for them. Yeah. So it's fun. It's really gratifying.
Well done.
Thank you.
So I want to get into it.
Sure.
How much money do you need if somebody wants to just start in attaining real estate?
Yeah, real estate.
That it's the way to build and secure wealth.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's it. You're like all over the place, but in real estate.
Right. So the beauty of real estate, it's got a really low barrier of entry. You don't need a big degree to join in the real estate world. And so,
did you get a real estate license along the way?
No real estate license. I got a medical degree. That usually confers omnipotence anyway.
That's true.
No, just joking there. It's ask, be humble, and just start learning. I know that sounds very broad, but I'll narrow it down. So if you want to be in real estate, pick up books, go start reading. Just type Type in real estate books. You'll find a bunch of them. Read them. You'll get a lot out of some. You'll get not much out of one, but there's always a nugget in something. That's stuff you can do on your own time, and you can do pretty rapidly.
What's the name of your book?
It's called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich.
We had to throw a plug out.
I appreciate that, yeah. So it's how you can create freedom with passive income, which is what I did. I just created passive income. But I did it the same way. I started asking people, what do you do? That's how I got one of my mentors. I said, hey, I like what you do. Can you kind of show me? Well, it turned into be a bit more formal thing. So learn as you read and listen to podcasts, you'll start getting the language. You'll start understanding the language of the industry. Your questions will get a little bit better. When you do all those things, you will find opportunities to go connect with them. There are seminars everywhere. I think there's a seminar real close by here, right? So all you have to do is put yourself out there, be friendly, be receptive. You'll start meeting people. So that's one. It helps to have a team. You can do things as a Lone Ranger, but like me, you'll make a lot of your mistakes first. It's a lot more fun to learn off somebody else's mistakes. And so you can get motivation from those people, you can get partners from those people, you can get education from those people being the folks that you ask to just, how do I do it? And then, once you can, there's sort of a cap on learning, or some diminishing returns. All that is brought to fruition with some action.
So how do you find properties?
So,
like you mentioned, the first one you bought, it was available.
Yeah.
So you were just looking for something.
I was looking for something. I had a relative that was going to lease a condo on West Campus. I thought, this is silly. I'll just buy one and rent it to you. So that's how it happened. So kind of fortuitous. That's where I met the manager who kept showing me all the other properties that I bought, who manages all my properties now. So it doesn't take but 1 degree sometimes where you meet somebody and off you go. So you find them, you can look on the web, you can just type it up on the web, real estate for sale, you can look on LoopNet, you can look on realtor.com, there's places you can look on the internet. I didn't have that when I was younger, I aged myself a little bit, but easy to start looking to find stuff. Finding a good deal is a little harder, so you need to go through a lot of them. Some people talk about that 110-1 rule, or you look
What's the 110?
That's where you look at 100 properties, you make offers on 10, and you get one of them if you're lucky.
How do you recognize it's a good buy?
That comes from your education. You got to know. You've got to look at some first, and maybe you make a mistake. Maybe you do like me. You buy one maybe it's not a good deal. Well, then you'll know right then. I understand what's a good deal and what's not. It didn't take me very long to get really good with the condo market in West Campus. So if you want to avoid that first mistake, you get real careful, but that could give you a little analysis paralysis. Sometimes you might bring in somebody else that's been there. Bring in partners, partner, teammate, something, consultant. Either pay them, bring a partner, give them half the deal, anything. Just get started. Or buy small. If you buy small, if you go in small with your first bit of action, then your mistakes are going to be smaller as well. So you learn from that. So it's this mistake itself has the same value. So it's nice to maybe start small if you're not sure. And once you learn that one, I'm just telling you, the first deal you do will give you connection to the next deal. You're going to meet the realtor, the broker. Of course, that's another thing, is talk to brokers. I am an investor. I am looking for property. Here are my parameters, and that takes some time for you to figure out what you want. Again, that education. Once you know what you want, you start looking for it, it eventually shows up.
So now you found the place. How much rehab are you willing to do?
Yeah, whatever it takes to get the right. It depends. Depends on my quote business plan, right? You can buy stuff for yield, which means you just buy it and it's going to make me X% a month or X% annualized, whatever that's going to be. But as you get better, as you open your eyes, as your mind expands in the real estate world, you'll realize, I could turn those Formica countertops into granite. I can reface those cabinets. I can put wood laminate flooring down instead of that carpet. Simple thing, just real estate things. And property that's finished out like that goes for $100 more just down the street. So I can put in whatever. I can put in $1,500. I get $100 more a month. In a year and 3 months, I'll have my money back, and the rest is house money. So that's the kind of thing. So I'll do what it takes. Sometimes we'll do, if we buy an apartment complex that's got a number of units, it'll be millions of renovation. So it just depends on that. Depends on the numbers.
How long are you willing to wait before you see the return when you price things out?
I would like to. The ultimate deal is to Ultimate
Sooner's
is
better.
yeah. Ultimate is cash flow right away, refinance in 2, 3, 4 years, get all your money back and keep it with house money. But that doesn't always work. So it depends on the market. The answer is always it depends. That we've got a market right now that's pretty hot. It's pretty steaming hot.
Austin screaming.
It's crazy, and it's wonderful to be a seller. It's really tough to be a buyer. There's still good deals out there when even if it's good times, bad times, there's always a deal out there. When it's good times like this, you have to look at a lot of deals. It may be 400 properties before you can make enough offers to get one, but it's there. So it's real nice to be a seller. As a buyer, you have to lower your expectations a little bit. If just to use numbers, if in the old days, if you were expecting 10% first year, 10% return on your invested equity, maybe now you're expecting 5 or 6. I'm just making those numbers up in a relative term, but in good markets, if you're a buyer, you have to stay nimble.
So do you flip much, or you mostly keep and rent?
I am a cash flow guy. That's after reading Kiyosaki's book, Passive Income. What I wanted was enough cash flow that took care of my expenses, because once you reach that point, you can do whatever you want to do. You could go to Montenegro if you wanted to and just hang out there.
I recommend it.
Yeah, I hear it's a great place. So you can go anywhere in the world. If your income's coming in, it's properly managed, you get all those systems put in. If your money comes in, no matter what you do, and you just can't stop it, you got to either go make more if that's fun, or go travel, continue your job in a more joyful way, or quit your job if you hate it, go start something new. So that was my whole mindset. Capital gain's nice. I like selling things, and that happens once in a while. So I prefer the cash flow, not a big flipper. I will tell you that in this new market, we have built properties that we have pro forma to go 5 years, really 5 years, 10 years. Maybe we'll refinance at year 6 or 7. They're now 3 years old, barely stabilized, and we're getting offers to purchase that are just astronomical. So we may actually become developer flippers this year. We're selling some assets. Well, sure, there's just, if you do the time value of money equation, it would take us 15 years to get that money back. So this is a good move for our investors.
Your tax structure must have become very complicated over the years.
Yes.
Has that been a learning process, finding somebody you can trust with your money like that?
It has. So, an honest answer, my first CPA was the guy that I knew when I was 12 because he did my dad's taxes. So I came back to Austin. I grew up in Austin. I said, okay, so I went to this guy. Very good, did a good job. But as I got to learn more and more, I would say, hey, can I do this? And he'd say, sure. I said, why didn't you tell me? He goes, well, you didn't ask. Next time I'd say, can I do this? He goes, no, it's a little gray. Okay, so we didn't do that one. So my education was really increasing. And then my network increased. So, speaking with Kiyosaki and speaking once in a while across the country and being on podcasts, I get to know a lot of people, and some of these folks are really, really good in the tax world. And one of those is a really well-known tax lecturer. He kind of talked to me for a number of years about wanting to take care of my stuff, so it all happened naturally when my other guy was getting ready to retire, and I made the switch. So I've got a really good tax guy.
Yeah, I think as you go, my concerns would be taxes and then property management.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finding the right property manager. I know for just me with my handful of things, and that's
management's key.
Yeah.
Oh, management's really key. Whether it's a single family home or you're managing 350 units. And so you have to manage your managers. That's just, so we say the income's passive. It is, but passive you still have to put some work in. You have to do some monitoring.
Do you utilize one property management company, or you have a smattering of them?
We prefer to spread it out, a little bit of competition, and give us options. So, that Sears model, we don't want just a single tenant. So we got multiple managers because they sometimes fit different markets. They fit different properties. Our properties might be as small as 140 units or as big as 600 units. It depends on the metro that they're in. So we use a number of different ones, and that way if somebody falls down, which has happened, then we've got somebody else say, hey, how can you take over this property? Because it's not fun to change management.
Are you able to go to these property managers and somewhat educate them or dictate what you're looking for? Or
Yeah.
are they, this is what we do, these are the percentages, et cetera?
It's a collaborative thing, as it should be. And then we'll interview. If we're looking for somebody new, we've got a property that needs management, we'll interview property managers, ask about their experience in the market, how they do things, what their typical operating plans are, and we'll make sure there's a mix. But we tell them, here's what we want, and they'll say, here's what we can do, and we work it together. So, generally. And we talk to them every week. Our asset manager has a call every week with every property manager.
Nice. Yeah. I know for me, I really, as we got started in it, I wasn't really aware that I could go to the property manager and kind of sort of dictate what I'm looking for.
Yeah. You tell them, hey, I want, like I had all these condos. I said, hey, when somebody moves out, let's renovate. Let's go ahead and fix it because we can get a little bit higher rent. And he goes, oh, why would you do that? I said, because I want higher rent. Okay. So we started doing that. So he started doing that with his other clients. So we learn from each other.
Nice. What else would you do? What do you want to do next?
My core values are adventure, growth, and connection, which translates to I like to travel. So I just got back from Belize a few weeks ago. I was in Peru and slipped over to Atlanta to a golf course. So I like to travel.
Would you buy overseas?
Would I buy overseas?
Would you start investing overseas?
I have. I have some property in Central America, and I owned a ranch in Africa for about 10 years.
Where in Africa?
In South Africa, in the Eastern Cape, about an hour from Port Elizabeth.
A few times.
Yeah. So we had a sizable piece of property, and we stocked it with animals and fenced it and built a lake. So that was fun. So yes, I would buy it.
Is that income generating?
It was. The country of South Africa, we kind of got some rumblings about how things might go politically, so we sold it. We could buy it back for 20 cents on the dollar now, so we're wondering.
Yeah.
So yeah, internationals, you just have to keep your eye on exchange rates. You have to keep your eye on governments. You have to know going in what their real estate laws are. Sometimes it's freehold land, sometimes it's leasehold land. So you got to know, you need to know the rules when you go in somewhere. That could be you need to know the rules in Austin, Texas, or
Sure.
They may be different in Sacramento, California. So you have to do your due diligence.
Are you primarily in Texas?
Yes, all in Texas.
In Texas.
Yeah, we've kind of pulled away from the other states. We're looking at a project or two in Florida because we like the demographics in Florida. A lot of jobs being created, a lot of people moving there, similar to Texas. Mm-hmm. It's a landlord-friendly state. So Texas is very landlord-friendly. It's very popular with everybody, it feels like. Everybody wants to move there, in particular in Austin. So I think we've got enough business to keep us going in Texas and maybe Florida.
So demographically, socioeconomically, how wide's your client base? There's Section 8, there's country clubs.
I tell you, my partner and I cut our teeth in the HUD world, the FHA HUD world, back over a decade ago. So we did create a Class A apartment complex, but it's an affordable project. So
just define Class A.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. In the apartment world, there's Class A, B, and C. And Class A is the top class, the sort of the nicest, newest apartments. And as they get 10 or 20 years old, they maybe drop down to Class B when they're 20 years old or so. And then the stratification just goes, the Bs are older and maybe not in such a nicer neighborhood, and the Cs are even older. Doesn't mean they're not nice places to live. They're just, it's an age and somewhat location demographic. And then there's Class D, which is, you have to be careful collecting rent in places like that. So we built a nice place. But we, back at the time, this was also 2008 and 9.
I was going to ask you, how are you... You've lived through it.
So yeah,
in real estate. How are you protecting yourself?
How am I protecting myself now?
For if there's another 08.
Yeah, so
things are goofy out there.
I mentioned one earlier. I'm still building, still working, but since we build such large projects, not necessarily using recourse debt, using non-recourse debt. There's a place for some gold. It took me a long time to consider gold, because gold doesn't, at least for Tom Burns, gold doesn't produce passive cash flow. A little bit of gold. But it's hard assets, gold being one of them, but real estate for sure, hard assets. I'm buying or building assets with good fixed long-term debt, and that's a way to short the dollar. It's a way to de-dollarize my portfolio. I've got hard assets that as the dollar gets weaker, it's going to take more of those dollars and more of those euros to buy my hard asset. And the debt that I've got is fixed. So each month, each year, I'm paying cheaper and cheaper and cheaper dollars. So that's the primary way.
And your hard assets are real estate.
Absolutely. It's buying hard assets. Being gold, real estate. I'm not big into painting, so I don't own any Picassos or anything like that. There's a few other things. But hard assets.
No sports memorabilia?
No sports memorabilia yet, and I don't have an NFT, but I'm looking at it. So the crypto world is, Wild West.
True. You're a physician, an
Yes.
orthopedic. We need to talk. I got issues. But your book was aimed at physicians.
Yes.
So you got physicians out there. What's your advice?
And I get to talk to them all the time. So the book's called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. It's kind of a little, shocker title, but really the subtitle, How You Can Create Freedom with Passive Income. My message to them is that we've got noble profession, and I proved how much I liked it. I worked for 10 years after not having to. Just recently retired because of time constraints, but we got a great profession. It's a noble profession, and we can actually make good money at it. But life is not all money. Wealth has got a number of pillars, and health, time, social, relationships, and family. So most of us really want that time. We want to be able to travel. We want the freedom and choice. So if you want freedom and choice in your life, you're not necessarily free if you've got to produce a service or add your time to do it. So try to find something else that starts bringing in some income, takes a little bit of financial pressure off. I really don't want you to quit. In fact, I want all the doctors out there to keep working so that when I'm 100 years old, they're very passionate about taking care of me. But get a second stream and a third and a fourth, if you can, another stream of income. It's not hard to get educated. If you got educated as a doctor, you can surely get educated as a real estate person or anything else. Just start learning, exercise some humility, and learn from others. They don't have to be older than you. They can be younger than you. It's just somebody that's more experienced. When you start to be able to make the choices as to what direction your life takes is liberating. It's absolutely liberating. And so you can start decreasing the things in your life that you don't like about being a doctor. None of us likes everything about life. So you can start knocking off those things that are a bit of an irritant and make your practice a joy. You can help more people, and you can give you and your family the person and the life that you really dreamed of.
Thanks. So number one, get a mentor. 1B, educate.
I say 1A, get educated.
Okay.
Because that'll help you be able to talk to your future mentor.
True.
Get you a mentor. Jump in, do something. And if you have to jump in and you're not with a good team, you don't have that good team yet, then jump in small and create a team network. Start meeting people. Start adding value to other people's lives, and the value will come back to you tenfold.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Well, that's it for Tom Burns and your interview with him. I guess it's probably, I shouldn't say it's it for him. I mean, he's got a life in front of him, but this is a guy that goes from, orthopedics to real estate, another story.
Yeah, perfect example. And he's got a big life ahead of him because he's now got he's got freedom. I mean, he was very successful as an orthopedic surgeon. So we know money wasn't a big issue, but time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a doctor.
Yeah. Well, I used to be. I used to play one on TV.
But time. So he's created time, which is the ultimate currency, right?
It really is. Well, thank you for being here, watching that interview, and learning from this. Again, our sincere hope is that this is adding value to your life every time you spend another minute with it. So thanks for being here. Well, that completes bonus episode 10. Thank you for being here. Excited that we're able to extend this a little bit. We are still in the free viewing period. We are not going to extend with additional episodes that we're going to be airing live here. So this is it. This is the last episode that we're going to be airing during this free viewing period. Thank you for being here. And again, thank you for making the investment. Thank you for taking the journey. And if you haven't, there's still time to get the discounts, to get the bonuses. Here we are in the free viewing period, but it's concluding pretty soon here, so don't miss out. Now is the time. Anyway, such a joy to be with you. I really love the work that we do. I love the fact that we can share it with you and that people benefit all over the world just for signing up and saying, yes, I have an interest in this particular subject. Real estate can change your life. Investing in real estate can change your life, change your future, and that's what we want to do. We want to have a massively positive impact on your life and your future. I hope we delivered that for you. Thanks so much for being with me through this process.